Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Is Kentucky's voice. This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
All right, welcome to the program. Today's program, Kentucky's Voice. We're the only program in the state of Kentucky or the city of Louisville that deals with news and politics from a conservative perspective. But, you know, there's nothing liberal conservative about the tragedy that just happened here in Louisville a couple of days ago. And I'm sure everyone's aware of, the UPS plane that crashed. And we, of course, we did a show on that yesterday, but there's still more to say on it. There's still more news coming out, more speculation about what happened. And today we're pleased to have a special guest, Representative John Hodgson, who has some background in this area, and of course we have our co-host Bob Scott, and Bob, why don't you introduce John's relation to this topic?
Absolutely, Tom. We're blessed to have John on because he enjoyed a 32-year career with UPS in an upper level management position. Before he, went into state politics, and has very unique insights. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, John, it's my understanding that there have been 4 crashes in the UPS history, and you were involved with the other 3 crashes, as part of that process. Is that correct?
Yeah, first let me clarify. I'm retired from UPS 10 years ago, and
Yes.
I'm in no way speaking for the company, just to my general aviation experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We did lost 3 airplanes. One burned up on the ramp many years ago up in Philadelphia, and there was a crash in Dubai, and then there's a crash in Alabama, and then this one. But loss of life occurred on 3 of those crashes. The other one was a ground fire where it burned through the top of the airplane.
Yeah, and I remember specifically because it hasn't been that long ago, the Alabama crash that happened. I believe it was landing going in the airport when that happened. And I know this opening segment is relatively short, but Tom, if it's okay, I do have something I want to read.
Yeah, go
a
ahead.
very compelling message that was from a wife of a UPS pilot. She sent, and she asked me at this point just to keep it kind of quiet, but she said,
Sure.
my husband and I and many other UPS brothers and sisters world was rocked by the tragic plane crash at SDF. Our hearts break for the pilots, crew, and their families, and we are praying for everyone impacted. We are grateful for the bravery of our first responders as they continue their work throughout the night and into today to respond quickly and heroically to this horrific incident. I have to admit, I was rattled last night hearing about the plane crash. This hit very close to home. I think about and pray this never happens. As most of you know, my husband loves his Honolulu trips, especially during the colder months, and her husband flew the MD-11. And I'm not going to read necessarily the rest of it, but to sum it up, he had flown in that plane. First of all, he knew the pilots that were on that plane. He had flown in that plane himself a week ago, I believe from Honolulu to Ontario. So he's very, very, very familiar. And she was just talking about, she started receiving random texts because a lot of people know them, and she is well known herself, that they knew that her husband flew the MD-11.
Right.
And just asking her, text is my husband, is your husband okay? Is your husband okay? Is your husband? And at that point, she didn't know what was going on. And then suddenly she finally found out what had happened. And she just went on to thank everybody for reaching out. And she goes on to say, none of us is promised tomorrow. None of us. Never waste an opportunity to tell someone you love them. that you adore them, and they are your everything. Please continue to keep the families connected to this tragedy and those who work at the impacted businesses in your prayers. And I
well
say
said.
amen to that.
Yeah, it goes to show you how small of a community Louisville really is, especially in relation to UPS, because I think everybody has about 1 degree of separation away from someone that works at UPS, and so this is a tragedy that everybody somewhat feels connected to on some level, and so we have 10 seconds left. We're going to come back and talk to John more about the tragedy. We also have some new video that's come out, some new dash cam video. We'll show some of that. We'll be right back here at Kentucky's Voice.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host today, Tom Fallbush. I'm joined with Bob Scott and John Hodgson, Representative John Hodgson, who is a 30-year veteran of UPS and doesn't currently work there. He's retired from about 10 years ago from there, but has worked with UPS closely, especially on these sort of issues. There's at least 3 different tragedies there, air-related accidents that he's been involved with. So he has plenty of experience with evaluating this. And I wanted to do this. There's some new dash cam video that came out last night, and it has a very interesting view of the plane as it's going across, I think, Great Lane or Crittenden Drive. I'm not sure which road it is, but you can clearly see that engine number 1, the left engine to be on the left wing, is missing in this video. So we're going to play that, Mr. Producer. Let's see if we can watch this. You see that fly over, and I'm going to start it again and replay it a few times. So here we go. So you can see the plane fly over, and looks like it's clearly missing. And what's fascinating in this particular video is you see the plane actually hit the fuel recycling center, which is these silos right there. That huge fireball is when the plane's wings intercepted this fuel recycling center. That's where I think most of the flame came from. There's 38,000 gallons of gasoline on the plane, but there was probably another 200,000 or 300,000 gallons sitting right there that it just hit. So this was like a small nuclear weapon hitting Louisville, Kentucky. I mean, no kidding. When you look at the amount of energy that we were dealing with. Let's look at this one more time. You can see the plane as it's flying. That engine number 1 is no longer there. If you see that, no longer there, and so it's definitely, that was the issue. Now, John and Bob and I were discussing some of the latest speculation that maybe it was more than just one engine. And so, John, would you want to speak to that? I've got some video we can play of that as well.
Obviously, the NTSB is going to investigate this and report their findings, but people familiar with aviation watch the video closely. The number 2 engine is back on. Number 1 engine on fire on the takeoff roll. The wing is on fire pretty significantly. But if you watch closely, there's a little puff of flame that comes out of the number 2 engine that's on the tail, and that's called a compressor stall or a flame out. That happens when foreign object comes in the front of the engine, or a seagull, or any of a number of things.
We're going to play that video while you're describing this, Mr. Producer. If you can pull that up, and I'll play that video while you're.
The telltale sign is that you'll hear sometimes a bang, but there's just a little tiny puff of flame that comes out of number 2. And when you see that, it's kind of like when you turn your barbecue grill off and the last gasp, it just kind of goes poof, and when the flame pops out, it's just a natural phenomenon. But that tells you that number 2 engine is not producing power anymore. Now, these airplanes are all certified. There it was. These airplanes are all certified to be able to launch safely and climb with an engine out. They practice this in the simulator. They'll simulate an engine fire or an engine completely quitting, and they've got enough thrust with the other two engines that they can take off and climb out safely and come back around and do an emergency landing. So in a normal situation, that would have been potentially survivable. But when the number two engine flamed out, they've only got one left. And now not only do you not have enough lift to get off the runway, but the airplane is leaning severely to the left because of the loss of that engine, and you only have thrust on one side. So
Yeah,
probably from
probably from debris from that engine that is
yeah,
that they
most
lost.
likely.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I've always questioned, just the design of the MD-11. I never liked that third engine on the
Yeah.
elevator. It first of all, aesthetically it looks terrible. I mean, just from a you look at an airplane, it's like there's something's wrong about that. But now this is a very clear problem. If there is some sort of engine failure of one of the other engines, these low engines 1 and 3 are way in front of engine number 2, and so any sort of debris that comes out of those engines can be sucked into engine number 2. This is clearly probably what happened. And would you agree, or at least that's what we're speculating? We don't know yet. And
certainly looks like
yeah.
that. There could have been other causes. It could have been sudden loss of fuel pressure, or even a bird. But obviously they'll figure that out. But yeah, I think if you ask anybody in the industry that's ever worked on the MD-11, the number 2 engine, the placement of that is a nightmare for mechanics and engineers.
Yeah.
Trying to access that, take special equipment is just kind of a pain.
Yeah.
Somebody had the great idea when they designed the airplane that was going to be better than a 4-engine airplane. There's only a couple of airplanes in the world that are designed that way with 2 wing engines and one in the tail. And
Right.
the L-1011 was the other one. It's been retired for some time. But
Yeah.
I mean, to my knowledge, I don't know that this has ever happened with one engine coming apart and then foreign object damage taking out the number 2
True.
engine. But
True. Yeah. That's
so
right.
this model's been flying for 40 or more years.
Yeah, I heard last night there was the DC-10, which is what this was based
Right.
on, did have an issue back in the early '80s where an engine fell off with a very similar problem.
Yes.
But it
There are 2
yeah.
DC-10 accidents, one in Chicago, I think about 1978, where 200 and something people got killed with an engine coming apart, and then one over Sioux City, Iowa later. And in the aviation industry, every time you have a crash, there's just a very detailed investigation that goes on, and there are always corrective actions that come out of that, things that you do to prevent that from ever happening again. After the crash in Sioux City, an engine came apart, and part of the engine cut the hydraulic lines as it exited the engine nacelle, and so they have armored those things with Kevlar since then to prevent what they call an uncontained failure from severing the hydraulic lines. But that's how the industry advances. Unfortunately, it's when something unexpected and catastrophic
That's
happens,
right.
you have to take corrective action.
That's right. And it looks like the NTSB is doing their investigation. Yesterday they said it's probably going to take about 30 days to kind of get get the investigation finished. And they did recover the black box yesterday. That was big news. And so, any comments on that, on what the black box might be able to tell us?
Well, NTSB does a great job. I mean, those guys go over everything with a fine tooth comb from every possible angle, everything that could have possibly happened. Crew and maintenance, structural things, environmental things, and I have a lot of confidence in what they produce. I've had people I worked with, actually be down in the smoking crater, with the airplane going through the debris. So
Mm.
I'm confident that they will do a very thorough job and figure out what the root cause of this was.
Absolutely. Bob, you have any questions, or John?
Yeah, no, I just first of all, I do want to thank Representative Hodgson for joining us, because I know he's got an incredibly busy schedule today, and he made room for us because he knows how important this story is. And that I think he might be even flying to Colorado a little bit later today. And so, John, thank you for being on the program. You have a very extensive background, as I mentioned. You are retired from UPS, but you'd worked for them for 32 years, and you were involved in the other incidents that happened, involving a plane, either where it crashed or, as you mentioned earlier, where one burned up on the runway. And what are your thoughts about that as far as moving forward? I mean, I guess we could say UPS overall has a pretty solid safety record, when it comes to the industry as a whole, But you were talking about the Sioux City event, which was a completely different airplane. It was actually a passenger plane, that went down there. And honestly, it was a miracle they even got that down on the ground, because all the hydraulics had gone out on it. and there was loss of life in it, but there was a whole bunch of people that also survived that crash. And
Yeah.
but this one, and I'm not any expert on aviation, but I've always thought, and everything I've read says when a plane is actually taking off, that's probably the most dangerous time. You know,
Right. So when
yeah,
this incident happened, there's a speed called V1, and that's the speed that you if you're going faster than V1, you can't stop before you run off the end of the runway. It's kind of the go or no go decision. And there's a speed right after that called VR or V rotate, and that's the speed when you need to lift the nose off the ground. And there's another speed that you have to achieve to have a safe climb out. So when you're the most vulnerable is when you're between V1 and VR. You're going too fast to stop before you run off the end of the runway, but you're not going fast enough to really lift off and climb out safely. And that's when this incident happened at the worst possible moment. So I'm sure the crew did everything they could, but it was almost looked to me, my opinion, looks like an unrecoverable situation.
Do you think UPS should retire the DC-11 at this point?
MD-11.
MD-11.
I'm not going to speculate on that. I mean, the way aircraft maintenance works, you can replace virtually every part on that airplane. I mean, I don't think anything other than a nuclear power plant gets more inspections and maintenance than airplanes do. And you know, heck, our B-52 fleet in the Air Force has been flying literally since the 1950s. So you can make an airframe last a long, long time. You just keep replacing parts. So I can't speculate on that. I think when it's, if there's an obsolescence issue or a safety issue that they can't fix or an economic issue they can't fix, that's what drives retirement. But you can safely fly airplanes for many, many decades.
Many decades, yeah. I just wonder if the design is inherently flawed, but I think you're right though. If you keep these things running right, they shouldn't fail. So, anyway, less than a minute left. Johnny, any last thoughts just about just what this means to the city and to the state or UPS or?
Well, this has a huge impact on people that I know and love and worked with. I mean, when an incident like this happens, it's a family in the airline community, and everybody knew somebody involved. Probably many people have loaded that airplane, fueled the airplane, flown on the airplane, worked on the airplane, and people in the aviation business take this very, very personally. And
they sure do.
I have a good friend who was sitting on the end of the runway and had to watch the fireball. One of my neighbors.
Yeah, that happened.
And so I think it's emotionally devastating, and I appreciate the city of Louisville, the first responders, and everybody pulling together to recover from this situation as best we can.
Yeah, and we really did, and we're looking forward to answers from NTSB as well. So God bless the families. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host today, Tom Fallbush, and we just had a segment with John Hodgson, who is a 30-year veteran of UPS, discussing the tragic accident on Tuesday. Excuse me. And so, Bob, wanted to get your thoughts and on this. I got something in my throat, so you take over real quick. I got to.
Yeah, no. John is always a compelling interview, and what he had to share today, really unique insights. And as with any investigation, as things move forward, new things are going to come out on a day-by-day basis. I've been making some phone calls myself, and really learning more about the process of the way these planes are maintained, certainly by UPS. And I did not realize that no major maintenance on any plane happens in Louisville. It's I think the bulk in the United States happens down
in Texas
in
or
San Antonio.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
And
this was there not too long ago. I think
it was down there. I'm also learning, and I want to say this very delicately. I'm not pointing a finger of blame, because everything that UPS did, is my understanding, was within the FAA guidelines.
Right.
They didn't do anything illegal or out of sorts, and I'll say that right up front. But I also have learned that on some planes, and I'm not saying it happened on this one, I don't know, not necessarily the most certified person will be working on that plane.
Sure.
That it could be someone that doesn't have a more advanced type of certification,
right,
to do this. And then you ask the question, well, why is that the case? Well, it's the case because it's cheaper to hire somebody doesn't have that higher degree of certification,
right.
And it's not just UPS that does this. It's probably every single airline, that does it. And again, nothing's illegal about it, and nothing outside of the FAA guidelines that prohibits this. And John said something too during our interview I didn't realize and it makes sense because UPS is a worldwide fleet. They've got people, in other countries, in other places that a plane can be put in for maintenance. And who's to say,
right,
in that country that you're going to be getting the same level of work and quality of
the
work,
professionalism,
that you would expect, certainly to get here in the United States.
That's exactly right. And you wonder, if maybe cargo haulers have maybe a different standard, or maybe they don't, hire somebody as qualified as, say, an airline that would haul passengers. I don't know. I'm not speculating either way, but just don't know enough about that world to understand. But I think we're gonna find out soon. This is one of the worst tragedies we've had from an air accident here in the past these past few decades, and it happened here in our hometown. And so I want to play this video again of this. This is the latest video that's come out. This is some dash cam video of someone, I think, traveling up Grade Lane. And Mr. Producer, if you can pull that up, but you can see the plane, cross the road. This fireball is probably a mixture of both the fuel farm that it hit, because there was you can see that right there in the picture. There's there's silos there that are storing a lot of recycled fuel. Apparently, yes. They recycle fuel, which I don't know how you recycle fuel, but they do. So, and regardless, it was flammable. And so when the plane hit that, it was already carrying 38,000 gallons of fuel. Then it hits that, and boom, it's like you're throwing fire on fire. It's or fuel on the fire, literally. But very dramatic video there, and of course, look at the people that are witnessing this are like, get out of here quick. And so this truck is driving way fast.
Tom, on that particular video, I've seen it slowed down. And you can clearly see as it's coming in, it's missing.
That engine.
That engine,
right? Yeah. We can go back to it, Mr. Producer, and I'll stop that. So you see that
the
right
engine is
there.
Completely gone.
Yeah. So you would see another round engine here, just like you see this one on the left. You would see another one over here, and it's absolutely gone. And it'd be interesting to know if there's any sort of thrust coming out of that second engine, because the question is, did that second engine lose power? And if so, then it had no chance of getting off the ground. So, and it's hard to tell on this picture. But what's also interesting is all the power lines it's hitting. You can see all. I'll slow this down. You can see all the flashes here of the power lines that it's hitting, and so. Imagine just a power line, like right there, that lights up right before this flame goes off. So you wonder if the power lines lit up this fuel. It just crazy stuff. But
yeah, and that
anyway.
explains too, because I was wondering how there could be such an instantaneous fire, that would happen. Well, it explains because of the fuel storage tanks that were right there.
It's like ignition. It's like a spark plug in an engine. Here, let's aerosol the fuel. So get the fuel in the air, mix it with oxygen, and let's provide a spark. Bam. Yeah. And then boom, you get a nuke. You basically a nuclear weapon that goes off.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, look at that. It's just crazy. So, God bless everybody that was involved.
Yeah, and for those that are watching on TV, of course they can see it easily. But for those on the
radio, yeah, sure, right, yeah,
we're can't see it, but it's pretty dramatic and instantaneous.
It is.
The way that happened, and again, as we continue to walk down this tragic road, we know more and more is going to be coming out.
I'm just not a fan of this plane. I've talked to some UPS pilots in the past, and they talked about the MD-11 in their fleet, and a lot of it is just old technology. It takes a whole lot of training to fly these because it's using 30 to 40-year-old technology. A lot of the newer planes, there's more automation, there's more computer software, it's more. The MD-11 requires a lot of just. You got to hit every switch just right. You got to know exactly what you're doing. You got to be a real pilot to fly these things. And so I just wonder if that plane needs to be retired. And I flew on one when it was a passenger jet, and I've sat in the back. And if you ever sit in the back of an MD-11, it's no fun because that engine is right above your head, just screaming away.
Right.
You can hear,
and I have.
It's like, who designed this?
It was one of my least favorite planes to fly when it was being used commercially, and of course, McDonnell Douglas, Boeing bought out McDonnell Douglas, so it's now. Sadly for Boeing, they're the ones that have to maintain this and run with this.
Yeah. So I'm just curious how many. I'll have to find that out on AI. How many MD-11s does UPS have? And so I'll check that question out. But anyway, well, let's as I'm doing that, let's switch gears and talk about the election. We got about 2 minutes left in this segment. We had a pretty impactful election 2 nights ago, and a lot of speculation about what it means for the Republican Party. I think. I think you'd agree with me. The Republicans have been a bit distracted here the past month or so. We've been fighting with one another, doing all this, Tucker Carlson, Fuentes, internecine feuds and stuff, and it has worked against us. And we really need to get our acting gear because just because Trump won a year ago doesn't mean that tides can't change. The things can't change. The mood can change. So, I love Trump's. Let me say this: I love Trump's overseas efforts with all these peace plans and all the tariffs and all that. But it seems like most of his successes recently have been foreign policy successes, and his focus has been there, which is great. We need that. But I think when it came to this election. What won is reaching out to working class people in New York or New Jersey and who are struggling with the economy, the Biden economy. Let's face it. So they're struggling with that. So I don't think the Republicans were even talking about any issues that related to their problems. And so it was just all foreign policy. And anyway, Bob, we got about a minute left. What are your thoughts on that?
No, and we'll definitely unpack this on the other side of the break, but it's a conglomeration of things, and you're absolutely, I agree 100%. Now we got to remember the states that the Democrats had their big wins in were
very blue states. Yeah, that's
far left, states and areas of the country. Now Virginia, you can make an argument; it's more what I call blurple, but they absolutely lean left now. Sadly,
That's
so. There's a lot to unpack. Like I say, let's talk about this on the other side of the break.
Exactly right. So, anyway, but listen, we want to continue to lift up the families of the victims of that airline or the air accident on Tuesday. So, join us in prayer with those folks. And Louisville's a good town. We got a lot of great people with big hearts. So we need those hearts right now for these families. So, we'll be back.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host today, Tom Fallbush, and my co-host Bob Scott. And we just talked, of course, about the UPS accident here, but we're going to move on and talk about the election on Tuesday. And of course, there were elections held in mostly blue states around the country, and of course, what's gotten the biggest news is the communist that won as mayor in New York, and so. I mean, Bob, when I look at that, he's not only a communist, not only a radical, member of the Democratic Socialists of America, which is a communist group, basically. Not only is he a member of that, he's a Muslim. And you're looking at New York, right? New York would fly the flag after 9/11. Never forget. All these memes, never forget.
Yeah.
Well, seems like they may have forgotten, because this guy is unapologetically radical in his Muslim, Islamist, worldview. And matter of fact, I'm going to play a clip of even Democrats are starting to get a little buyer's remorse on this. And this is Van Jones, a major Democrat pundit, and many of you have seen, just talking about his speech, Mondami's victory speech. It was very, very virulent and vitriolic. So let's listen to what Van Jones had to say about it. You know what? I've got no audio. Oop. You got it? All right. It's on me. Okay, let's see what's going on with the audio here.
From independence.
There we go. Start over.
Independent. I'm happy. You know why? Buyer's remorse from independence. Independence gave Donald Trump a shot. Buyer's remorse. The Latin community gave him a shot. You see, buyer's remorse. Black men gave Trump a shot. They've come back home. Buyer's remorse. Why? Because people are sick of the status quo. That's why they voted for Trump the first time. That's why they voted him out the second time. That's why they voted him back in. People want change. And Donald Trump said he was going to do something about grocery prices. He's done everything, but he's putting in gold toilets in the White House. He's tearing up. He's gallivanting around the world. And you're seeing buyer's remorse in places where Republicans had some hope. This thing is starting to settle out now. This is about basic needs that people have and basic rights people expect. That's what seems to be under fire from this administration. And if they think they can spin and talk and nobody's going to notice that, they just got proven wrong tonight. I'm happy. You know why?
That was a different clip. That was a different clip. But I'm glad I played that clip because that plays into what we discussed earlier. I think he's right on a lot of these issues. There's a lot of hope with people that voted Republican for the first time that Trump's going to do some things, and he has. Honestly, he has done a lot of things that's helped a lot of people. But the perception probably maybe right now amongst certain folks that are independent or maybe have voted for him the first time, maybe he isn't as focused on their needs and their concerns as they would like him to be, and maybe that's why these elections went the way they did. I don't know. It's hard to say. These are blue cities. It's not a good measurement of a national election, but anyway, what do you think there, Bob?
Americans sadly have short-term memory, and a lot of the really the base of Mondami's support came from the young, Generation Zers and close to that age group, and that have absolutely either they weren't born or have or were babies, had very minimal understanding of what 9/11 was, other than what they've been taught in school, which we know in most public schools it's not going to be very good, and literally are clueless, that we're as to the seriousness of it. And I've said this many times on this program, but you cannot show me where communism, Marxism, whatever ism you want to refer to, has ever worked.
Right.
Ever worked in the history of mankind. It's always been an abject failure.
That's right.
And has cost millions upon millions of lives in the process, and has brought nothing but heartache and death and destruction. That's what it brings.
That's exactly
so
right. Yeah.
It is, Tom, going to be very.
A UPS freighter aircraft has crashed in Kentucky.
Yep, got it. Yeah, exactly right. And so, yeah, it seems like every generation needs to kind of relearn these lessons. And and until the whole left-wing Marxist experiment, and until that ideology is is a pariah to the common person, much like, say, Nazism is, right? Until communism and Marxism has the same, same sort of evil, reputation as say Nazism does, then we're going to have to relearn this lesson, because there's some sort of appeal that it has. And Dan, I've got your audio in my ear, if you can drop that real quick. But yeah, there's some sort of appeal that this has to people, especially young people who are clueless about life, right? Because Marxism has this sort of message of, well, it's the system, it's the man, it's this evil group of people that are keeping you down. All the struggles you have in life, all the angst of being human, on this earth, is because of this imbalance to the economic system, or because of this group that's oppressing you, and so it gives all these easy answers to people that haven't really figured life out much, and that's why, the old Churchill quote that when you're young, if you're not a liberal, you have no heart, but when you're old, if you're not a conservative, you have no brain. And so, because life is conservative, reality is conservative, and all these ideologies and ideas that the Marxist left promotes, it's attractive to people that haven't thought through it and actually experienced life, and so. And I think that's what's going to happen. Like in New York, you basically had a whole lot of young people. I'm not trying to find this chart I was looking at last night. There's a whole lot of young people that voted for him. If you look at the age demographic, it was basically the 30 and under crowd voted for him dramatically, and also majority women. I mean, like the women who voted for Mamdani was off the chain. The young women who voted for Mamdani were off the chain. And somebody made a quote on Twitter last night. He says, "Well, what they're voting for is the husband they don't have. Mamdani is the husband they don't have," and that's really true. Left wing, leaders have this appeal to young women, especially single, professional, liberal, college educated women. They have this appeal to them because it's like I said, it's the husband they don't have. In a lot of ways, there's a lot of deep meaning to that, but why else can you explain why women are off the charts?
He, like Obama, is very photogenic and loving, in his tone of speech. And I'm here. I saw another video that said that he won the election several months ago when all the other candidates were basically touting a foreign nation, and he was the only one that said, "No, I'm here for you. I'm here. I'm not gonna support any foreign nation. I'm here for New Yorkers and the United States of America." And again, they will do anything and say anything to get elected. That's the history. That's whether you like to hear that or not.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but that is the history, and in fact, it's a part of their caliphate, if you will, as far as Muslims are concerned.
Yeah.
And I don't want to paint with a broad brush and say every Muslim is this way, but those who are nefarious and are trying to assume power and control, it's okay. They get a little wink and a nod, and you can lie, you can cheat.
That's right. That's right.
To get from point A to point B, they don't care how you get there as long as you get there.
Well, and if you take Islam seriously, if you really take it seriously and try to follow what the Quran and the Hadith say, it's to basically take over the government of any country that you're in.
Correct.
If it's not already an Islamic government, it needs to become one according to the Quran and the Hadith. And there's a way to do that. First of all, you go in and infiltrate, and you become a minority. Then you grow. Then you create an enclave. And then you start demanding special rights.
And then you start using the laws of that nation.
That's right.
Especially a Western nation, especially a nation like America.
That's right.
That you can start employing your agenda. And what you said, Tom's 100% correct, where you then get into positions of power.
That's right.
And as you get and if you think it's not happening in America, folks, I've got a new clue for you. Go to Dearborn, Michigan.
Yes.
And I saw another clip of a gentleman that went there peacefully to a city council meeting and basically was complaining and not really even complaining. It was very nicely saying in calling out the city council for renaming the street after some Muslim radical, and the mayor didn't even hear him, who is Muslim, and said you should be ashamed, and immediately ran towards you're being xenophobic, you're being racist, and I can't get you out of my city fast enough.
Exactly.
You know,
yes.
Those kind of tactics are happening, and they're happening right here in America.
Yeah, and it seems like there's something going on with just Western cities as a whole. There's this trend, just a sociological trend of people. They call it de-urbanization. And so people are starting just to leave cities anyway because of lots of issues, mainly because of there's no longer a sense of these are our cities. So this is my neighborhood, or this is, I can relate to the people in the city. We've had such a high level of immigration, and that if you look at, say, Louisville, for example, you go to the South End in Louisville, there's as many Hispanics now as there are, just native-born Americans. Now, Hispanics are wonderful people. There's some great Hispanic people. We have a lot of Cubans in this area, but if you grew up in an area that just is not of that culture, and suddenly your neighborhood changes to a different culture, you just feel uneasy. And so it's just something about the human psyche. You want to be in a community of people you relate to. And so what's happening is cities around the world that are westernized, that have a high levels of immigration, they are depopulating. And so, but what's happening at the same time is immigration is kicking up, is speeding up. So these cities are becoming more, loaded up with these foreign immigrants who have a different worldview, have a different agenda, and suddenly you get a Sadiq Khan in London. Because London is now less than 40% native British now. It's a lot of it's Muslims. So that's why you get a Muslim mayor in London. That's why you get now a Muslim mayor in New York. COVID, a lot of people left during COVID in New York because the whole New York was a really hotbed for COVID, and people realized they could work remotely. So they went to Miami, they went to Tennessee, they went to out west. So now you've got this going on. I think New York's going to have a huge depopulation and a de-urbanization, and which is going to double it down. It's going to double down this doom loop that it's going to be in. And I hate to even prophesy that and speak it, but I think cities like New York are in an urban doom loop, and we're going to talk about that in this next segment. We'll be right back.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host today, Tom Fallbush, and Bob Scott is with me as well. And Bob, well, I was about to say Bob and Tom, but Tom and Bob can't say Bob and Tom because there's already a radio show called Bob and Tom. But Thursdays and Fridays are going to be the Tom and Bob show, or you can call it the Bob and Tom show. It's up to you, but we just can't say it. So we're going to be co-hosting together tomorrow as well. So if you like our vibe here, we're going to continue that on Fridays. So also, we want to encourage you to reach out and give to Stand with Louisville. It's a group that it's basically tied into the Lord's Kitchen, and we're raising money to help give away food and help people that are impacted by the government shutdown and the SNAP crisis and all this. At the end of the day, it really shouldn't be the government, helping our neighbors anyway. We should be helping our neighbors. That's one reason I think we have a kind of a problem with our connection with helping one another is because we just feel like the government's going to handle it and we don't have to get involved and so it just takes away the opportunity, first of all, to give and serve your fellow neighbor, and also helps work against community. We should have a sense of community. We should know who our neighbors are and know their needs, and this is the way you can do it. So 502-213-9543. There are people that are going hungry right now. That they can come to the Lord's Kitchen and pick up some food and that sort of thing. But not saying that we're against the government shutdown. I think Trump's doing the right thing, and we're going to see how that plays out. But also, if you want to text, you can text us at 5710970, 5710970. Love to hear your thoughts about the elections from Tuesday night. We're dealing with a communist who won as mayor in New York City, and Bob, we were talking about how cities like that are there's a concept called the urban doom loop where people start leaving, and so basically the people that are more conservative and the people that actually drive the economic engines of a city realize that the politics of those cities are working against them, so they leave. And so the people that are in those cities that are left are even more left, and they vote more radical politics in like this, and so which then forces more people to leave, and then there's less of a tax base now, and so the services start failing, and you have to cut back on police, which and so you add that with just a left-wing view of the world where it's criminals, it's not their fault, it's the system, and we shouldn't everybody's born wonderfully, and it's just the system that made them bad, and where conservatives believe there's just the tragic nature of human beings. We all have sin in our heart. There's just going to be criminality, and you always have to have police and anyway, so the urban doom loop is real, and it I think we're going to see it play out in New York here in the next 4 years, and let me pull this one clip up, and I want you to comment on this, Bob, too, because the reason he won, the reason Mandami and a lot of these far left candidates are winning is because of liberal white women who are voting for these folks, and I think there's an issue here. So he says the biggest threat to America isn't Hamas, Venezuelan gangs, or violent migrants. It's upper middle class, primarily white women who would import all the above to destroy the country in order to satisfy their suicidal empathy. And I want to show you this clip here. This is a new picture of the Statue of Liberty. There we go. We've got a burqa on the Statue of Liberty. So who voted for this? Well, if you look at who voted for us, and I'll pull this up in a second, Bob, is overwhelmingly middle class, younger women vote for this sort of stuff. And do they know what they're voting for, Bob? Do they really know what they're voting for?
I can answer that question unequivocally. No. We have a couple in my family further on down the line, but no. I think a lot of it, as the vote was on Tuesday, is tied to Trump derangement syndrome.
Right.
It's really funny if you really start questioning, why do you hate Trump? Well, he's bad. He's a rapist.
That's right.
He's a pedophile.
That's right.
They start coming in with these far left and disproven theories. But yet it's something that they take as a matter of fact,
Right.
and and I'm not here to defend Trump one way or the other.
Right.
Trump has his warts and his bruises like the rest of us do, but and this is always my personal ultimate fallback is thank God Trump was elected president as opposed to Kamala Harris, who basically there was a mini coup that happened within the Democratic Party that kicked out a sitting president who really didn't want to be kicked out, that being Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And she was installed, without receiving one vote in the primary. She was put in, and so thank God.
Thank God.
It wasn't Kamala.
Dan, pull this chart up. I want to show Bob this chart here. This is the vote by gender and age. And so if you look down here midway through the chart, it shows the highest or the largest group that voted for him is young women 18 to 29. 84% of the people of women between 18 and 29 in New York voted for Mandami. The next highest level is young men at 68%, but everybody else is way below that. And so it's basically young women mostly, and some younger men, voting for these far left candidates. And she makes a quote here, Megan Basham. She goes, 83% of young women went for Mandami. Do you know why? Because they view him as the husband they don't have, the one who's going to take care of them and provide for them. Just a reminder why the left does everything it can to destroy the family and marriage. And it's true. And it's like as we have these a lot of young people that, let's face it, Bob, they're coming out of a lot of broken homes. We have such a poor rate of marriage in this country now. We have a lot of single parents, and so a lot of these young people have daddy issues, and they kind of see Trump as this this bad daddy in a sense. And then they see somebody on the left who can fulfill this role that's going to take care of them. I can see that on some level, and it's a I don't know. I just what can we do? What can Republicans do, and to message properly to this demographic, because it is a real problem. It's
it comes back and going back again. We've talked about this many times. It's the economy, stupid. And not that we're in a horrific economy. It's definitely improving. And you look at the stock market, I mean, it's going through the roof and doing better, as Trump likes to point out, than it ever has, But has it filtered down yet to the average everyday American, especially that younger generation? I would answer no, it has not. Is it going to get there? Yes. But in my opinion, between now and the 26 big elections that are going to be happening with regard to what will determine control of our Congress,
right.
Some major dramatic things need to happen with regard to fixing some things as far as the economy is concerned, where our young people, I've got two young sons, both in their early 20s. Neither one could really afford to buy a house right now. One more so than the other.
That's right.
But they're not there.
That's right.
And these are things besides the house is just paying everyday living expenses. These are things that we as a country, and you shouldn't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. This is a problem.
That's a real deep insight, Bob. Because at the end of the day, the young people that have come of age in this past decade or so, since really 2007, have been born into some of the worst economy for people starting off in life that we've had in the past 50 to 80 years. And so they are seeing the system rigged against them. They're seeing inflation. The houses are so expensive now they can't afford them. A lot of that's due to illegal immigration, by the way, and so that's working against them. And and then they're competing in the workforce against HB1 visa holders and all this stuff, so they can't even get a decent job. And so you're right. There's a real economic challenge that the younger generation is facing that folks like you or I are more middle age haven't seen and aren't feeling that instinctively. And so that's a very good point. Mandani and a lot of these far left folks are tapping into that, and Trump tapped into that somewhat. And he needs to pick up those talking points and get those policies moving for that demographic and get the messaging right, because we've got the answers. We've got the right answers. It's just It's just the left is capitalizing on the pain of that younger generation. That's a very good point. Outside of the just the political and social issues that a lot of these young folks are tied into, the economic issues are very important as well. And that's so well said. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, no, I just know, in my opinion, the next 6 months, clock starts today, are going to be absolutely crucial, from a formulative standpoint, as far as true conservative moving forward, or seeing a shift, a radical shift like we saw. It's happened in New York City. It's been taken over by Kami Madami.
That's right.
It's a fact, and it's a scary thought, and it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen there. I think we all know what the outcome's going to be there.
Yeah.
But regardless, we need to be putting forward not just the message, but putting some meat on the bones, with
That's right.
regard to seeing some
Really
things.
deliver.
Interest rates have come down a little
really
bit.
deliver. Yeah.
We're seeing some improvement. Gas rates, the
That's
price
right.
of gas has come down a little bit, but we're not there yet.
Yeah,
We're not
and give
there.
it time. With Trump, everybody says this, and I think it's true. You got to let him cook. You got to let him cook. And so his, the tariff plans have maybe caused a little bit of disruption here in the economy here or there, but it's going to turn into more jobs and a stronger economy for the U.S. overall. We didn't get into this mess over a year. It took 30 years of selling off all our jobs to China and around the world. It's going to take a little longer to get those back. So we need to let him cook. Hey, last point, I want to bring up what happened out in California. Gavin Newsom, he got Proposition 50 passed, which allows them to redistrict out there and allow for 5 more Democrat seats to be gerrymandered there. So you're probably going to get 5 more Democrats in the House of Representatives of the U.S. Is it time for Kentucky? Is it time for us to redistrict, do that mid-decade redistricting, and gain at least 1 seat? Because there's still 1 Democrat seat held by McGarvey here in Louisville. If we could gerrymander and there's several maps we've seen where we could have all 6 delegates in Kentucky.
Well, here's the deal. I'll say this,
and
real
we
quick,
need to do
we're
it.
out of time.
Yeah.
But the Democrats have been doing this. This isn't
Exactly.
just a new thing. They
That's
have
right.
been doing this. Illinois, New York, California. It's been going on for a long time.
And if we don't respond,
I
we're
don't like
fools.
it. I don't like it, but I think now something we absolutely need to be looking at doing it here.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I encourage anybody in the legislature to put this forward. We need to get this done, and because we cannot let California steal our votes. Because California's, their districts are based on a lot of illegal immigrants, right? So so a lot of their illegal immigrants are being counted in their census. That's why that gives them extra seats. So we need to fight back. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.